What's going on, man? Welcome back to the basement. I'm Ron, and it feels like Christmas Eve. We have the NFL draft happening tomorrow night, and the Dynasty streets are hot right now. Everybody is in their sleeper app, getting trades done. I actually saw 2 or 3 trades happen this morning in my Dynasty leagues. Everybody's excited for the NFL draft, for rookie drafts to start up this weekend, and that means right now is a great time to make trades while everybody is participating and on the app and excited about Dynasty. So today, we're going to cover 7 Dynasty trades to make before the NFL draft, because once the NFL draft happens, the Dynasty landscape completely flips on its head. So I think that there is some value to be had making moves before then. We're going to talk about a few buys, a few sells, all that can be made right now. So with that being said, if you enjoy, leave a like, subscribe if you're new. Let's get into my first buy candidate here, Trevor Lawrence. Now, of course, with all these buys and sells, I have them all designated in my top 200 Dynasty startup rankings over on the Patreon, patreon.com/Ron Stewart. You can find that in the description and the comment section down below. My startup rankings, my buy and sell recommendations. On top of that, my rookie rankings, my prospect models, everything you need for rookie draft season will be over on the Patreon. So with Trevor Lawrence, he is a buy for me. He is the QB19, and he is outside the top 50 keep, trade, cut assets right now. And I think a part of that is that people are kind of bored of the Trevor Lawrence experience, whereas when he was drafted, he was a first-round startup pick as a rookie. He was the prince who was promised. He was one of the most coveted 101s ever, a much better quarterback prospect than Cam Ward this year, and he's kind of an afterthought, right? He has Brian Thomas Jr., of course, but after that, the backfield is weak with Travis Etienne and Tank Bigsby. Evan Ingram's gone, Christian Kirk's gone, and then we're talking about Gabe Davis, Diami Brown, who they just signed, and Parker Washington. So people aren't all that juiced about Trevor Lawrence and this Jaguars offense, but I think you can give him a mulligan first and foremost for what happened last season. We look at his rushing yards per game. It went from 21.2 in 2023 to 11.9 in 2024 with only 10 games played. So clearly something wasn't right. He's always been at 17 rushing yards per game or more. Last season, he did not hit that, and he was well below it. So he wasn't as much of a rushing threat. He was banged up, and I think that we can kind of buy low here, where last offseason, he had a peak, right? When we look at his keep, trade, cut value over the last calendar year, he had a peak at like 6,500. That's like a second-round startup pick, early third, kind of in where like Stroud is going right now, where Bo Nix is going right now, and that was just last season. Now, of course, that green line is when Liam Cohen got hired. He has risen in value a little bit since then. We're kind of buying high just a little bit here because of Liam Cohen's hiring, but I think it's still a fine price I'm willing to buy, right? Trevor Lawrence is 25 years old, but I think that the draft is where we can get some more hype for this Jaguars offense, and I think we're going to have a lot of hype when redraft happens and everybody wants to buy low on this Jaguars offense, especially if they add something to this receiving game. Right now, there's a lot of steam for Tet McMillan to go much earlier than we had previously thought. Adam Schefter mentions Tet McMillan at number 5 for the Jaguars. We have a tweet here from Connor Allen as well. McMillan was 50-1 to go 5th overall in FanDuel, and then now he is down to 7-1, and as I'm recording this video, I think he's down to 5-1. Now, of course, they are the favorites to take Ashton Genty, but I think that that's actually a really good sign for this offense regardless, right? Where Matt Harmon quotes Charles Robinson. Charles Robinson is a Yahoo analyst. He wrote up some notes about what he's been hearing about the draft. He said it would be a surprise if the Jacksonville Jaguars didn't take an offensive skill position at 5th overall. I'll just leave it at that. So if he gets Tet McMillan, all of a sudden you can get excited about Trevor Lawrence having his best wide receiver pairing since Justin Ross and T. Higgins back in Clemson. Or they get Ashton Genty. Liam Cohen has the running game of his dreams. And then in the second round, they still pick 36th overall, and then you're still going to be able to get somebody like an Emeka Egbuka, a Luther Burden, somebody in that range that would also be really exciting. And all of a sudden, you have 1 or 2 new pieces to this offense. People start getting excited. They start projecting forward into this next year. They start getting excited about what you have with Liam Cohen and this once generational quarterback prospect. And I think especially when we talk about quarterbacks and age, a lot of these top high-end guys like Joe Burrow, Lamar, Josh Allen are all 28 plus. So Trevor Lawrence only being 25, 26 years old, all he needs to do is have a really, really great season, and all of a sudden you can see a really nice profit where he goes from a round 4 or 5 startup pick to a second round startup pick all in the span of one season. So he's really exciting. When you look at where he goes on the trade market, this is from fantasycalc.com. They have a trade database from real leagues. I like all these. I mean, I'm not crazy. Like, if you can take Kenneth Walker and Jake Ferguson, like just like two sort of fine assets and turn that into a once coveted quarterback, I would love that. In my last video, I said that Rome Odunze is a sell. If you can take Rome Odunze and an early second and get Trevor Lawrence and a pick, I'm fine with that. Even if you want to keep the picks out of it, I would trade Rome Odunze for Trevor Lawrence straight up. Trevor Lawrence for the 106. I think right now, as rookie picks are spiking in value, if you want to flip your 106, which is pretty certain at this point to not have Cam Ward there, and you need a quarterback or want a quarterback, I think that's fine. And then also, if you can turn, a older Dak Prescott who doesn't have that same dynasty asset value gain upside of being a second-round startup pick next offseason, I don't hate adding to Dak Prescott to get the Trevor Lawrence. But I do think Dak Prescott's a buy in general. I'm just saying I don't hate getting younger at that position. Now let's switch over to Jameson Williams, who I have as a sell, our second trade candidate on this list. If you've held long enough, I think if you want to cash out, you absolutely can when it comes to Jameson Williams. This is somebody that had a really, shaky start to his career. He comes out, doesn't really do much early because he had the injury issues, right? We can see here from Keep Trade Cut, if you've been holding on to him for the last calendar year, he was somebody that you could have gotten for almost for free last offseason. Of course, he spikes early season. He looked really good. He comes down a little bit. Now he's settled out around 4,600 points or whatever on Keep Trade Cut as the wide receiver 29, 24 years old. He kind of gets gassed up as being this like explosive young receiver, and that's exciting. But I think there should be some concerns around Jameson Williams. First of all, right now, he is going into, I believe, the final year of his contract. He has like the 5th-year option up for debate. And I think that Jameson Williams has posted some Instagram stories. And Albert Breer posted on April 21st that he thinks that Jameson Williams is one of the players that could get traded on draft night. And Jameson Williams, to me, is a very fragile wide receiver. And what I mean by that is he is very much a product of efficiency. Right? 60 yards rushing, a touchdown on the ground. On top of that, 2+ yards per out run. But it was very much scheme dependent with Ben Johnson. And I think even now, I would be a little bit concerned. And I think he's already sort of gone down a little bit with Ben Johnson getting hired by Chicago. But now that Ben Johnson isn't around to scheme him those targets again, and if he goes to a different team, I think it throws off his entire, I don't know if you want to call it equilibrium, but his role with Ben Johnson last year was just so perfect. I think now moving away from that, it's putting a lot of stock into him as a pure receiver. And to me, that's scary. When we look at wide receivers last year with 2 or more yards per out run with over 100 routes, it's a sample of 31 wide receivers. He has the lowest targets per route run on this list, right? So 2.1 yards per out run is great. He's efficient on a per route basis, but in terms of commanding volume, he's down in the Christian Watson, Jaden Reed, Adam Thielen area as one of 3 wide receivers under 20% targets per out run. So he is not gaining volume, and efficiency year to year is not sticky, especially if you aren't, A.J. Brown or Puka Nacua or one of these high-end elite wide receivers. Yards per out run can bounce all over the place. So that's where it gets scary with Jameson Williams, where you're betting on efficiency. He's a low-volume guy. The PFF grade as well, 76.5, isn't elite either. So he kind of had a spike season. He had a wide receiver 23 point per game finish, and to me, that's probably where he taps out, right? I don't see how he gets to 24, 25% targets per out run to crack into, the top 20 dynasty wide receivers with Amon-Ra St. Brown, Sam Laporta, Jahmyr Gibbs, no more Ben Johnson. You add in the fact that he could get traded and then completely just take him out of this environment. I think that I'm fine just taking the profit, whereas, again, a year ago today, he was pretty free to acquire. I'm fine just selling. We look at some of these trade packages that he went for on Fantasy Calc. The 110, easy. 109 for sure. 111, yes. Again, I had Dak Prescott as a sell for Lawrence, but if you can turn Jameson Williams into a fringe quarterback 1 and you need quarterback scoring, I'm fine with that as well. And then I would also just accept any 2026 first. So really for me with Jameson Williams, I think I would sell him for any first, right? If it's anywhere in 2025, anywhere in 2026, or for a quarterback like Dak. Now, talking about quarterbacks, I think right now is a great time to buy as draft picks are at their premium. We're going to talk about Patrick Mahomes. And I don't want to spend forever because it's like, all right, everyone knows why he's good. But With Patrick Mahomes, it is kind of crazy, right? He's the QB6. He's outside of the top 12 players or assets on Keep Trade Cut. And this is somebody that prior to this year was one of the untouchable assets in Dynasty. People would have to sell their soul to get Patrick Mahomes. He was a top 3 locked-in startup pick every single year. And I think we've now probably gone too far. When we look at Keep Trade Cut value versus projected points from Mike Clay, he is quarterback 5, or he's tied with Joe Burrow, right? It's Jalen Hurts, Jaden Daniels, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Mahomes, Burrow. Those are your top 6 quarterbacks. And among them, Mahomes is in a tier by himself past this group, which I think is pretty crazy. Now, of course, he is the oldest quarterback on this list, but he's 29 compared to Joe Burrow's, Lamar Jackson, and Josh Allen's age 28. So he's only a year older than those guys. I know he's coming off of another down season, but this is the best quarterback of his generation, one of the only quarterbacks that can hold a candle to somebody like Tom Brady. I'm just not convinced that he should be, when we look at startup ADP over on Dynasty Data Lab, I'm just not convinced that Allen, Lamar, Burrow should be a full half round ahead of Patrick Mahomes in a Dynasty league. We own these players for life. And when you just think about it, Mahomes from a real life perspective is just as good as those guys if we were doing an in real life draft. And I just don't buy this idea that he's just all of a sudden not going to score fantasy points anymore. We can look at his points per game over every year of his career that he's been a starter. Last 2 years has been down, right? 17 points per game, 17 points per game. But before that, 24, 21, 25, 20, 26. I just have to think, if you looked at a similar chart to this, whether it's Drew Brees or Peyton Manning or Tom Brady, and I think that Mahomes, right, 3 rings at this point, MVP, whatever, almost had a three-peat this year. I think that you can put him in conversations like that. And if you zoom down on all of those guys' career, sure, maybe they would have 2 years of valleys, and the peaks are going to come soon. So with Mahomes, I just want to bet on that. And if you want to say, oh, he's getting older and it's like a rushing thing, I just don't believe that. His rushing yards per game last year, you can see the 2024 season was actually more rushing yards than he had in 2018 and 2019. In both of those seasons, he had 20-plus points per game. So it's not a rushing and age thing. It's not a volume thing either, because the Chiefs have been pretty good volume-wise. It's been an ADOT, and it's been a receiving issue, right, where Kelsey's been getting old, Rashee Rice gets hurt this year, Marquise Brown gets hurt this year, he's working with like Juju and Justin Watson and rookie Xavier Worthy. And I think heading into this year, especially getting beat in the Super Bowl, I think they're done playing the style of offense where there's no explosives and they're living and dying by the success rate of Mahomes on third down. And then they're going to want to go back to actually scoring points and being one of the top offenses in the league. And if that happens with, Rashee Rice coming back from ACL, Xavier Worthy year 2, I think that they're one of the most commonly mocked wide receiver teams on round 2. Kelsey coming back with like something to prove. I just don't believe that after kind of getting killed in the Super Bowl by the Eagles that they're just going to run back this same like win by the skin of your teeth mantra, and they're going to go back to actually being a good offense. And what you're betting on is an efficiency bounce back for Mahomes. And when we look at Mahomes, he is the most efficient quarterback ever by career numbers. If you look at quarterbacks with 100 or more career starts since the merger by adjusted net yards per attempt, so that's just your yards per attempt, and then also factoring in some sacks and interceptions, I believe, you get Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, Peyton Manning, Drew Brees, Tom Brady, Romo as the only 6 quarterbacks with above a 7 adjusted net yards per attempt. Again, I think it's fair to put him in the Tom Brady, Drew Brees, Peyton Manning, Aaron Rodgers tier of quarterbacks, and these guys all had amazing years into their 30s. Mahomes is entering his age 30 season this year, and if you want to look at since 2010, there have been 74 20-plus point per game seasons. 26 of them, so about a third of them, have come from quarterbacks over the age of 30, right? You have Aaron Rodgers in there, Drew Brees, Tom Brady, Ben Roethlisberger, Peyton Manning, and I just don't know why Mahomes can't be a prolific passer into his 30s in a great situation with Andy Reid. They're adding to this offense, right? Offensive line was also a big issue where they had Joe Thuney playing tackle. They're going to be building that through the draft. So I just don't know that, again, like I just find it really wild that he could be a full half round behind Burrow in a startup draft. If I could do Burrow for Mahomes in a first, I would. If I could tier up from the Caleb Williams, Justin Herbert, Bo Nix area to get to Mahomes, I would. So those are some ideas I'd be doing, whether I could tier up, tier down. Is there enough rookie fever that I could turn the 102 and another first into Mahomes? Those are some ideas I'd be looking at. Now, the next trade idea I have here, this is based on a sell, is James Cook. And we look at keep trade cut. He's the RB12. He's an RB1 at this point. He's the 60th ranked player. And when it comes to dynasty startups, he is going between the 105 and the 104. And I'll be honest, I would sell him low here. I know that he is a popular sell candidate. He's in a lot of dynasty sell videos, but I would even sell him low. I know he goes between the 104 and 105 here. I would even sell him somewhere between the 107 and 109 range. I would just want to get out of the James Cook business right now. You look at him last season, and they kind of phased him out after week 10. This is his snap share per game. Shout out to Fantasy Life. And the red line is the average RB1 snap share of 67%. And then the black line is kind of where things fell off for him, where week 11, 13, 14, and on, he kind of got not phased out, but Ray Davis took on a bigger role. Ty Johnson took on a bigger role. And when you're dealing with that low of a snap share, you're kind of playing with fire, right? He was an RB1 last season. He's valued as an RB1 in Dynasty right now. And I would just want to get out for some capital here. And his future in Buffalo is also uncertain. You look here, Bills running back James Cook has listed his Orchard Park house for sale. It's been indicated that he's not going to sign his contract extension there. It seems like he's probably going to be out of here after this year. He also wasn't in Buffalo for voluntary workouts recently. And then on top of that, if you look at what I am calling the backfield risk score, this is taking a team's odds to draft a running back first as their first pick in the draft, and then also how many first and second round picks they have, right? So that is just meaningful draft capital that can be spent on running back first and second round, where it'd be like, oh my God, this is not great. And then the team's thirst for running back as according to Vegas. And Buffalo actually has a surprisingly high backfield risk score where they're not super likely to draft one in the first round, right? Only 2.6%, but they have 3 picks across the first and second rounds, giving them a lot of opportunities to take a running back early. And then again, you already have Ty Johnson and Ray Davis squeezing him for touches. So I'd like to get out of the James Cook business. And same thing with Brian Robinson. Again, another sell low that I'm fine just accepting as a sell low. Washington grades even higher on the backfield risk score after Las Vegas, Chicago, Denver, Jacksonville, Dallas, the Chargers. Washington is the next highest list with a 10% chance to draft a running back in the first round and 2 first and second round picks in this draft. And they've even been linked to guys like Bajal Tutin early day 3. So they're going to be somebody that's definitely looking at running back. And we also have this chart here from Kent. I screw his name up every time, but he has great charts and kind of like viz on his website, Kent Werak. There's no way I'm saying that correctly, but running back right now in terms of pre-draft visits is tied with wide receiver for the Commanders' most visited with position. So something to definitely think about. And when it comes to Brian Robinson, right, he's the RB30 in Dynasty. You're not going to get anything crazy, but I'm just fine selling. I think that he's tapped out as like an RB3-ish type of guy. He's never hit 1,000+ rushing yards despite being a rushing-only running back. He's 26. He's heading into the final year of his deal. And these are some trade ideas I would be entertaining. Where could I do Brian Robinson for a late second? Could I do Brian Robinson for 2/3? I would even entertain. And then Brian Robinson add a piece like Josh Downs, who I like. But if I could add Josh Downs to B-Rob and get Tyreek Hill in a contending team, I absolutely would be entertaining that. Now, our next trade target is buying Blake Corum. He is the RB46. And I will say, this is not really the draft that you want to be doing this for, right? This is one of the best running back draft classes in recent memory. This draft class grades out very similar to me, or in my model, to the Todd Gurley year, where it was Todd Gurley, Melvin Gordon. This is a class you want to be taking swings at running back, but if there was one running back you wanted to buy, right? We're selling James Cook, we're selling Brian Robinson. If there was one running back to buy, to me, it would be Blake Corum, right? Trey Benson has all the buzz in the world, and I think that he is a really nice arbitrage play on Trey Benson, where if we look at keep trade cut, Trey Benson is the RB28. Blake Corum is the RB46. Now, I get that Trey Benson is like about to turn 23 and Blake Corum's already 24, but when you look at what they did last year in terms of production, these are your day 2 running backs over the last 3 seasons and what their PPR output was as rookies, and they're both under 50 PPR points scored last season, which is pretty much nothing. Now, I know Benson pops in some efficiency metrics. Again, I know he's younger, but this price discrepancy for two players that kind of flopped in year one, I think is too wide, making Blake Corum, to me, if you wanted to bet on a running back with day two draft capital, right? Like if you get into a spot in your rookie draft where there's no longer running backs to take, right? We're talking third round rookie picks. There's no longer running backs drafted on day two. So at that point, I'm actually fine selling that rookie pick and using it on Blake Corum, who was drafted on day two and is actually in a similar spot to Trey Benson, right? Where James Conner's known for getting banged up and not being the healthiest guy in the world. There's the same issue here with Kyren Williams, where when you look at, I think this is from Draft Sharks, but he's now had 3 major injuries to his foot, ankle area. He had a foot fracture in 2022. He had a high ankle sprain in 2022, a high ankle sprain in 2023. And at this point, he is just as live as James Conner to miss time in any given season. And when we look at the Rams in that same backfield risk score, they have one of the 4 lowest numbers on this list. It's Baltimore, it's Philly, it's Atlanta, and then it's the Rams with only a 1.6% chance to draft a running back first, and then only 1 pick in the first 2 rounds. So this backfield is pretty much locked into being Kyren Williams and Blake Corum, and we could see this Rams offense that produces fantasy goodness, right? This is a tweet from Ryan Heath saying, every running back and wide receiver to make the playoffs in over 55% of ESPN leagues since 2017. Sean McVay alone accounts for nearly 10% of these fantasy football league winners since he became a head coach, which is just really good, right? A lot of his players end up mattering in fantasy. We've already seen with a guy like Kyren where he's like a 0 in year 1 and then breaks out in year 2. It wouldn't be that crazy for Blake Corum to be the last man standing in this backfield if Kyren Williams was to go down, or if he was just to build out a role in general, right? This is somebody that they liked. They drafted on day 2, and we already have a quote from the Coach Speak Index saying McVay envisions a little bit more versatility in his 2025 offense and notes how impressed he was by the variety of personnel groupings and runs in Liam Cohen's 2024 Bucs offense. So we could see more Blake Corum, running back versatility in this offense, and that's very exciting. So if I could go out here and acquire Blake Corum for a rookie third when I know that this is going to be the range of drafts where day 2 running backs are off the board, I'd be fine taking a swing on Blake Corum. Now, our final buy, and he doesn't really have much tied in to the NFL draft. It's just Nico Collins. He stood out in the buys video we did a couple of weeks ago, where if we look at first-round wide receivers on Underdog and compare them to Keep Trade Cut, he really sticks out. Now, of course, if you are new here, check out Underdog. They sponsor the channel. They sponsor this video. Use promo code Rondo. Match your first deposit up to $1,000. You'll have a free pick in the Pick'em lobby for 0.5 points for Steph Curry. They have a bunch of promos going for the NBA playoffs. And then on top of that, if you want to get some drafts in, you absolutely can. They have the little board, the biggest board, pre-draft best ball, and then they will have Best Ball Mania happening next week. So the link to that will be in the description and the comment section down below. But we look at just the first round of Underdog ADP, where they have thousands of drafts happening with real money on the line. Nico Collins is the wide receiver 5 off the board. He is one of 8, I believe, wide receivers going in the first round. He's 26.1 years of age. That is just what? 0.1 older than CeeDee Lamb, 0.6 older than Amon-Ra St. Brown, and yet he is a full tier, a full like 1,000 Keep Trade Cut points below Amon-Ra St. Brown, Brian Thomas Jr., Puka Nacua. It's kind of a tier below those guys, and I just don't really get it, right? And like, even if you want to say, oh, well, I don't like Keep Trade Cut, you can see it here. We look at Dynasty Startup ADP. He's closer to Drake London than he is to Amon-Ra St. Brown, and to me, that's just wrong. This is somebody who was really good last year. On a per-route basis, he was an absolute stud. This is from Jacob Gibbs. This was tweeted on December 6th. So from December 6th, 2024 to December 6th, 2023, he leads all wide receivers 0.68 in fantasy points per route run. That is a full 0.1 higher than Amon-Ra St. Brown, than Jaden Reed, Puka Nacua, A.J. Brown. Across the board, too, like his targets per route run is amazing. First downs per route run is amazing. 3.52 yards per route run is just absolutely nuts. He's been amazing. Last year, before he got hurt, he was at 20-plus points per game. He's been at a 90-plus PFF grade the last 2 seasons. And we could see this Houston offense gain some steam without Bobby Slowick. They're going to build the offensive line through the draft. They could add another weapon, making this offense kind of more coveted. And, you know, if you want to say the reason that he's cheaper is because he got hurt last year and he's had some injury issues, that's fine by me, but I'm also fine to buy the injury discount on Nico Collins. I would love to. If I could tear down from Amon-Ra St. Brown to Nico Collins and pick something up in return, I would. If I could add just a little bit to Drake London and get to Nico Collins, I would. If I could add just a little bit to Marvin Harrison Jr. to get to Nico Collins, I would. If I could add to JSN, Garrett Wilson, the 102, or Bucky Irving to get to Nico Collins, I would as well. I've already made videos on why I don't really love Garrett Wilson. I just don't think that JSN will give you the same scoring upside as Nico Collins. And then Bucky Irving's fine, but I don't see how he gets to the second round of startup, so I'm fine selling him there. And if there's some rookie thirst where you can give the 102 and like a very small plus on top for Nico, I would be very much interested there. But that is going to do it for us today. Again, if you want access to all of my buys and sells, I have buy and sell recommendations for every single player. That is over on the Patreon, patreon.com/Ron Stewart. You'll find my rookie rankings there, my dynasty rankings, my buys and sells, one-on-one advice, exclusive leagues on the Discord, all of that good stuff and more. Patreon.com/Ron Stewart. You can find the links in the description and the comment section down below. But if you can't support there, leave a like, subscribe if you're new, and I will see you guys in the next one.
Stones, like this froze, ice cold.